Welcome everyone to CoasterGuy23 review number 6. Today's review will be on one of the more controversial rides of the last 2 years. But as of this video, things are trending in the right direction after a rocky start. From manufacturer choice to downtime, this ride has been under the microscope, but hopefully this ride continues to build on a very good 2025. Of course, I'm talking about Top Thrill 2 at Cedar Point. Top Thrill 2 originally opened as Top Thrill Dragster in 2003. Built by Intamin Amusement Rides, it was the first ever roller coaster to eclipse 400 feet and was the tallest and fastest in the world when it opened. To accomplish this height and speed, it used Intamin's signature hydraulic launch system. From a layout standpoint, it was rather simple. The hydraulic launch would launch you up a 420-foot tall tower where you would spiral back down into the brakes. I was lucky enough to experience the original Top Thrill Dragster, and it was an adrenaline shot that was over just a little too quickly for me. However, the hydraulic launch system was plagued with problems since Top Thrill Dragster's opening day, and over many years Top Thrill Dragster would close frequently, and became somewhat of a running punchline among roller coaster enthusiasts due to its frequent downtime. In 2022, following an accident where nobody was injured, Cedar Point decided that they had had enough. They announced that Top Thrill Dragster as we knew it was retiring, and the wording of this announcement made it very obvious that it would be reimagined and not torn down. Not long after, it was announced that Zamperla would be reimagining Top Thrill Dragster into Top Thrill 2. This retrofit changed 3 major things about Top Thrill Dragster. First, and most importantly, it ditched the hydraulic launch system in favor of more modern and reliable LSMs. It was pretty obvious that LSMs were not capable of the power of the hydraulic launch system. To combat this, they changed Top Thrill Dragster into a swing-launch roller coaster. However, a structure was needed to swing back on, so change number 2 was the addition of a 420-foot tall spike that trains would launch backwards into. Then they would fall down the spike and back towards the original 420-foot tower to complete the ride. This swing launch would also have to bypass the station, so the third and final major change was a slight station and operation reconfiguration in order to make the spike fit under the current roof of the current station build. These changes were constructed, and Top Thrill 2 was ready to open to the public in May of 2024. However, on May 10th, Top Thrill 2 was mysteriously closed, with the park providing no timeline or reason. It remained closed for days on end, including days that I was actually at the park from May 11th to 13th. Yes, I missed it by one weekend, still not happy about it. The mysterious closure continued for months until finally, Cedar Point announced that the ride would not reopen for the 2024 season. Top Thrill 2's closure quickly devolved into an online fiasco, with people making claims that the wrong manufacturer was chosen and that the ride was already a failure. During the season-long closure, the full train units were sent back to Zamperla's headquarters, where obvious modifications were made to its wheel bogies and overall chassis. After a very quiet off-season surrounding the ride, to the surprise of many, Top Thrill 2 was ready to go for opening day. During the 2025 season, Top Thrill 2 had a couple multi-day maintenance closures and some spotty closures due to weather. But overall, its 2025 season was a resounding success and greatly improved the overall future outlook of this attraction for Cedar Point. In August of 2025, I finally got to ride Top Thrill 2, taking 7 rides in various rows over the course of 3 days. What you see in front of you I've mostly already talked about, but Top Thrill 2 is manufactured by Zamperla using its new Lightning trains that is part of their new coaster division. Zamperla engineered their own box track that closely resembles the original Intamin box track used on Top Thrill Dragster. This is the same Intamin track that is still there to this day on the top hat. So I guess in theory, Top Thrill 2 uses both Zamperla 4-pipe track and Intamin 4-pipe track during its layout. I personally can tell no difference when I'm riding on which. Top Thrill 2 has the same height and speed as the original Top Thrill Dragster, with a height of 420 feet and a speed of 120 miles per hour. The track length is slightly different though due to the added reverse spike, bringing it to 3,422 feet. Top Thrill 2's layout is a lot different than all the other roller coasters I've previously discussed on my channel. All the other reviews I've done so far are full complete layouts that I navigate and consist of many different elements. However, Top Thrill 2 really only has 2 physical elements that are actually constructed. However, due to the swing launch, you traverse a lot of these elements multiple times, and so thus they show up on the force chart, and thus that brings Top Thrill 2's total element count to 8. These 8 elements consist of all 3 launches, 2 forwards and 1 backwards, and then 5 others, including the actual structure climbs themselves and the brake run at the end. You may notice that I divided the top hat into 2 separate elements, and I'll discuss a little bit more why I did this in the force chart, but I think this just makes the most sense in my head as the way to break this up. A lot of Top Thrill 2's elements last for quite a long time compared to other roller coasters, bringing its total ride time from launch to brakes to 54.28 seconds. Not only is this pretty good for a roller coaster, but it significantly surpasses what the original Top Thrill Dragster was able to do. After waiting in line for this guy, you just feel like you get more bang for your buck, as the experience in real time is nearly 3 times longer than that of the original Top Thrill Dragster. I'm not going to unveil which of the 2 I prefer just yet, But there's no doubt that duration is one of the major benefits of the Zamperla makeover Top Thrill 2 over its predecessor. Overall, there's just a lot more going on and a lot more to process when you hit the brake run after Top Thrill 2 compared to Top Thrill Dragster. As always, I encourage you as you look at this force chart to jump back to the previous slide to see the start and end time of every single element on Top Thrill 2. That way, you can actually envision what elements are happening where on this chart as I break it down. First thing you'll notice is that Top Thrill 2 pulls some very heavy positive Gs, more so than anything I reviewed so far on my channel. What allows Top Thrill 2 to hit these values is that they are not very sustained. If these peak positive G values were sustained at all, you'd be graying out on this thing. The 5G peaks you see around 42 and 55 seconds occur when you're entering and exiting the top hat, and they really only serve to get you pointed upward entering the top hat and pointed towards the brake run exiting the top hat. Next, we can talk about the top hat, and you can kind of see now why I decided to break it into two elements, as the two airtime moments are almost completely separate by the crest. When the train is at its slowest at the top of the top hat, you're technically not receiving any airtime. This is done purposefully by Intamin, as getting a train from going 90 degrees upward to 90 degrees downward must be done in a controlled manner. Otherwise, the airtime will just be too strong and it will be uncomfortable for riders. There's a reason your typical airtime hill doesn't have entrances and exits as steep as the Intamin top hats. Especially on Top Thrill 2, which goes over the top hat with considerably more amount of speed than its predecessor Top Thrill Dragster. At around the 50-second mark, just look at the area between the 0G line and the force chart. The exact size of that area, aka the airtime score, will be revealed when I go through the POV, but as you can see, it will be a very big number. The area to the right is the descent of the top hat, and this little area to the left of that is the ascent into the top hat. The descent is a lot bigger than the ascent because this file was taken in row 10. To stay consistent with my other files, I had to separate the top hat into two separate elements because I felt it unfair to score it as one airtime moment when in reality it has a break in the middle of it. A lot of the smaller Intamin top hats have that little break in the middle stay underneath the 0G line, and had that been the case here, I may have let that slide as one airtime moment. But because this crest goes above the 0G line, I have no choice but to break this airtime moment up into two. Don't worry, it will still score very well despite the breakup. Alright, I've droned on long enough, let's jump into the POV. Top Thrill 2 glides over the transfer track and then onto the launch track. A countdown will begin, and once it's over, the first launch will begin. My first and really only major criticism of Top Thrill 2 comes here, as this first launch, unfortunately, I just don't find very good. I've covered that LSMs don't exactly do the best when starting from a dead stop, and you can definitely feel that on this launch, as it kind of kicks in and gets you rolling, but it just kind of feels like you're rolling all the way down the launch track and no real acceleration ever kicks in. I understand LSMs just aren't as powerful as the original hydraulic, but I thought they were at least a little bit more powerful than this. I'm not even really that upset about the magnitude of acceleration, because I know LSMs are going to limit that, but in general I just wish this launch hit a higher top speed, and I feel like with the length and all the LSMs that they have, that it was capable of doing that. It just pales in comparison to the original start of Top Thrill Dragster, and even compared to the rest of Top Thrill 2, this first launch just gets the ride off to a really slow start, which luckily the rest of the ride does not follow at all. In terms of all the LSM launches I've done, this is definitely at or near the bottom. The only one off the top of my head I would not take over this is Copperhead Strike's first launch, which also starts from a dead stop. I'm telling you, LSMs from a dead stop just don't have that punch that they do when they're rolling. And because of the slow launch, you just don't go nearly as high up the top hat on element number 2 as I think you could have. Although I do wish you got up higher, I still do really enjoy this little mini rollback, whereas especially in the front row, you get to that full 90 degrees, and all things considered, this still is 200 feet in the air. So while I do enjoy this little mini rollback, it's not what it could have been because that first launch just doesn't do what I think it can do. The park chooses to market this element as getting a rollback every time. Is it a full rollback? No. Would the launch, even at max capacity, get it to a full rollback? No, I don't think so. But I think this launch, if at max capacity, could at least get it up into the twist and probably looking at more like 250, 275 feet in the air rather than 200 feet. That way you can make this element in the back a lot better by also getting the back row to that full 90 degrees. If the back row had gotten to where the front row is now on the first launch, I think that would be a huge success and would overall really improve Top Thrill 2. That being said, I still do really enjoy this rock back, as just being that high in the air and then all of a sudden starting to fall backwards is just such a weird feeling, and not really one you can get on another roller coaster at the moment. And as you're falling backwards, Top Thrill 2 really starts to get going, as you are waiting, and then all of a sudden, boom, launch number 2 hits you. This is something I totally failed to think about before I first rode Top Thrill 2, and as we were traveling backwards after the rock back, I was like, is this it? And all of a sudden, you just hear the magnets kick in underneath you, and you just start catapulting backwards. When that launch engages as you're rolling backwards, it really is just one of those moments that makes you want to grab the lap bar out of fear. Traveling backwards on a roller coaster at this speed is already an unusual sensation, but when the acceleration kicks in, it becomes a whole other sensation entirely. I just think it's the unknown of not knowing what's behind you while accelerating faster and faster toward it. This launch is just amazing. One of the top LSM launches that I've ever done. The cherry on top of this one is knowing what's coming at the end of this launch, but having no idea when it's going to happen. You're waiting, and all of a sudden, you feel a strong crunch of G-force as you fly into this absolutely massive vertical spike. Yes, I know there's technically some things that let you know that the spike is coming, but to be honest, you're so focused on the fear of the backwards acceleration that you don't even really look up to notice them. And even if you do see the signs, there's just no way you have enough time to prepare for the backward G-force that's about to hit your body and ultimately try to make you flop over your lap bar. The pull into this spike is pretty intense, pulling 4 Gs, and you have no time to brace for it, and you're in a pretty minimal restraint system. Again, it's just one of those moments that makes you want to grab your lap bar because you really have no clue what's going on behind you. You're just at the fate of the roller coaster train. Now, I thought about this for a very long time, and the climb up the spike and then falling back down into the third launch is my favorite part of Top Thrill 2. Once the car completely flattens out from the pull up, nothing is acting on you but gravity as you look straight towards the ground. For your vertical force, this should just be a 0G moment, but the Ride Force app did pick up some noise, resulting in a minus 9.47 airtime score, and for consistency, I'm going to give it the credit for that. This should be a 0G moment because the track is not curving at all, and the only thing acting on you is gravity, which is pointing directly parallel to the track, so the track shouldn't actually be putting any force on you in this element. And then the other part about this element that I love, obviously, is the height. For this, you really need to just come out and watch and ride this ride for yourself because no POV or off-ride footage does it justice of just how high you get on this spike. You quite literally are looking down on Power Tower, and if you look to your left, you are taller than Millennium Force. It's adrenaline rushing, fear-inducing, all of the above words for thrill-seeking. Now, as you ascend, you are just waiting for that pause and the train to start falling back down to ground, and you just begin to pick up so much speed as you absolutely hurtle back under the roof and into the third launch. Now, obviously the original acceleration is not there, but if you are sitting in the front row of Top Thrill 2, you will fully get to experience that original Top Thrill Dragster / King Ka style launch again. The wind just makes your cheeks flab open. It's that feeling that you got on the original King Ka and Top Thrill Dragster. You're not pressed into the back of the seat like you were on those two, but just the objects passing by you so fast and the wind flying into your face, it feels almost identical to me to King Ka and Top Thrill Dragster. Some might disagree with that, and I can certainly see why, because the acceleration is a little bit less, but that wind, that makes it feel like the original King Ka and Top Thrill Dragster hydraulic launches. And it's just so nice to see that feeling captured in this ride. Just like the backwards launch, you are going to feel that acceleration coming from the LSMs. And I didn't really expect that, being that this launch is taken at such a high speed. This is another one of my top LSM launches, and while I don't prefer to the backwards one, it is still absolutely up there. I'd have to think about where it exactly would rank among all my launches, but I can't really think of any that I would put over it right now, aside from the backwards one on the same ride. Also, I think now is a good time to talk about smoothness, and Top Thrill 2 overall I found pretty smooth. I do not think it is as smooth as the original, but it is still perfectly passable. If you want a smoother ride, just sit towards the front of the train, it'll be near perfect, and in the back, you'll get better airtime on the top hat, but you have to decide if it's worth the risk of just that little extra rattle. It's just hard to stay perfectly smooth at these high speeds, but even the back of Top Thrill 2 I would probably take over any row on King Ka except for the front, in terms of smoothness. This third launch sends you hurtling towards Top Thrill 2's 420-foot tall top hat. Both the pull in and exit of this element are super intense, and while it's not very sustained, they both hit over 5 Gs of positive vertical force. On the 90-degree twist upward, you don't really notice it, but on the 270-degree spiral down, you can definitely feel that these trains have a different heart line than the original Intamin trains. That just means there's more space between your seat and the track than there previously was. This makes the 270-degree spiral downward feel that little bit extra clunky in the best way possible, as just that extra whip added to the rotation really gives it that unique sensation compared to the previous Top Thrill Dragster. It's kind of hard to describe, and it's kind of just something you have to experience on your own, but this twist down definitely feels different than the original. And then finally, we have the airtime. And like I said, the top hat is broken into 2 different segments of airtime, the front half and the back half. My file was taken in the back row, so the back half, when you drop off, is going to hit a lot harder when you're pulling into the front, just because you take the same curvature with more speed. The front half hits a max force of about negative 0.4 Gs and lasts for a little over a second, with an airtime score of 24.43. And for the drop off of top hat in the back row, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Steel Vision's outer bank, step aside. Lasting for nearly 3 whole seconds and hitting a minimum G of -1, the drop off of top hat has an airtime score of an impeccable 106.02, making it the best airtime moment I have recorded using this system. This is a big step up from the original Top Thrill dragster, and it's super noticeable when you're riding, and this is just one of the upgrades over the original Top Thrill dragster in my opinion. And of course, being up 420 foot tall on a roller coaster is just a feeling that never gets old. Crossing over the top hat and looking down on the 310 foot tall Millennium Force again is just puts everything in perspective. Between the speed, the size, the airtime, the snaps on the twist, everything, this top hat has definitely an argument to be one of the best elements on the planet. I know I said earlier that the back spike was probably my favorite part on Top Thrill 2, but I just go back and forth, and I might change my mind again and say top hat is my favorite part on Top Thrill 2 now. There's just so much to love about this ride, and these elements are all so good that, it's hard to make up your mind. As you hit the brake run here, all you can think of in your head is, what the actual heck just happened? And I can't simply summarize Top Thrill 2 any better than that. That will conclude the POV breakdown for Top Thrill 2 at Cedar Point. Taking a look at the airtime profile, we only have 3 airtime moments to break down, but the fact that those 3 combine for a score of 139.92 is ridiculously impressive. Top Thrill 2 has the best airtime moment that I've recorded with a score of 106.02, and that's the drop off the top hat in the back row. The ascent into the top hat is pretty good too, although that's definitely in the flowjector range. And then finally, the back spike is just kind of generated from noise on the Ride Force app and doesn't really actually have any top to bottom airtime. With the speed and height, sometimes it's easy to just focus on that and lose how much airtime you're actually getting, but the force chart does not lie in that this top hat absolutely delivers airtime in a way that the original King to Ka and Top Thrill dragster did not. And that to me is a legitimate selling feature of the new and improved Top Thrill 2. These 3 airtime moments combining for an airtime duration of 8.34 seconds is also very respectable, especially given that Top Thrill 2 really only has 2 structures that actually come off the ground. Now, jumping into the cards, first up we have theming, and Top Thrill 2 really doesn't have a theme other than, drumroll please, racing. The overall theme experience compared to original Top Thrill dragster is definitely a step down, and that's disappointing to a lot of people, including myself. I think even keeping the Baby I'm Ready to Go song in the station would have really helped out on the theme. In my head, I really just can't get a good reason as to why they got rid of this song other than they just wanted to start fresh. I just missed some of the small theming elements that Top Thrill dragster had that they purged for Top Thrill 2. So for theming, I have no choice but to score it a little bit below the bottom of the barrel. The trains are at least still themed to racing, they kept the countdown timer, and there's some new engine noises, so not the worst thing in the world, I guess. Up next, we have presentation, and I really like a lot of things that Zamperla and Cedar Point decided to do from a presentation standpoint of Top Thrill 2. I just love the idea of changing what was white to red and what was red to white and redoing the supports to gray. It just looks so clean and looks so good to me. Up next, we have operations, and Top Thrill 2 absolutely kills it with 3 trains. The block setup of the load, unload, wait, and launch block sections make it super easy for one train to almost always be cycling. In my 3 days at Cedar Point, pretty much every time a train hit the brake run, the next one was rolling out onto the launch and getting ready to cycle. I also like that they kept the queue in the infield, as it just provides some really nice scenery and gets you excited to ride. Where I will knock it a little bit is the loose article policy. While the lockers are free, they are at the beginning of the line, and you have to wait in the line without a phone. Also, I just wish they did a little bit of a better job at redoing the plaza around the ride, as it just kind of looks spotty and is already falling apart a little bit. This roller coaster is at Cedar Point and not at Universal or Disney, so presentation can only go so high, but overall, I really like the job that they did with the presentation of Top Thrill 2. Up next, we have laterals, and Top Thrill 2 doesn't get off to a great start in this category due to the straight-ahead swing launch, but once you hit the twist up and twist down on the top hat, all is forgiven as you get some really good laterals to the side. With these open-air trains too, you really flop over as well and can notice them. As much as I love those twisting motions, they can only do so much for the lateral score, as most of the ride is straight ahead and straight back, so for laterals, I'm going a little bit below average, although, like I said, I do love those laterals on those twists. Up next, we have trains, and like I said, Zamperla did a phenomenal job on these Lightning trains, especially after the repair they went through in the winter of 2024. They're comfortable, they're open, you sit in a very natural position, and in general, you could just sit in them all day as if it were a couch. Unloading and loading is easy, the airtime into the lap bars is really comfortable. I really don't have anything bad to say other than that there's still one train out there that I do prefer to these. It's tough to say how these would ride on a full layout, so it's tough to compare them to the Intamin new gen trains, but I do see a lot of similarities between them, and I would probably give the slight edge to these. I would love to see these on a full layout to give them a better test. Trains are going to score nearly perfect for Top Thrill 2. Up next, we have propulsion, and this is going to score above average just because it is a launch coaster and not a lift. It starts out really rough with that first launch, but the second launch and third launch save it and then some. The second launch you just never see coming, it takes you by surprise, and the backwards acceleration is just a super unique sensation. And on the third launch, just overall speed and that skin flapping sensation is just awesome and makes you tear up. This raises an interesting debate of would I rather the original Top Thrill dragster single launch or all 3 launches on Top Thrill 2 combined. Top Thrill Dragster definitely has a punchier launch and is better than any of the 3 launches on Top Thrill 2, but I just like that on Top Thrill 2 you are launching for longer and that each launch has its own unique feeling. So for that, I'm giving Propulsion a near max score, with my only critique is I just wish that first launch sent you a little higher up the top hat and just felt a little bit more punchy. If you prefer the original Top Thrill Dragster launch and just that 3 seconds of balls to the wall intensity, then I have absolutely no problem with that and respect that opinion. But for me, if you combine all the launches on Top Thrill 2, they together provide a more complete and fun ride experience than the original 3-second launch on Top Thrill Dragster and Kingda Cup. Really interesting debate on this one, and sound off in the comments if you feel strongly one way or another about this. Up next, we have positives, and for the first time on this channel as well, Top Thrill 2 kills it in the positive category. Going up the spike, coming down the spike, going up the top hat, and coming down the top hat are all ridiculous. Obviously, going up the top hat is 5G, but 4G backwards on the spike is absolutely no joke either. Do other rides sustain the positives a little bit more? Yes, so that's why it's docked a little bit, but I think the force chart speaks for itself on this one. Up next, we have maneuvers, and I know that element profile kind of makes it a little confusing on what a maneuver on this ride is or not, but I consider the maneuvers on this guy to be that back spike and the twists on the top hat, both of which are absolutely amazing to me. The back spike in general is just an absolute world-class element and carries this maneuver score almost completely by itself. The twists are good and help out a little bit, but the back spike does the main heavy lifting of the score you see in front of you. I'm so glad that Zamperla did not overcomplicate it, as just a straight vertical spike with no twisting I think was the best way to go with this, as just hanging there and waiting for that straight down drop underneath the roof is just one of those wow roller coaster moments that you really need to experience for yourself if you haven't yet. So for maneuvers, that back spike alone catapults Top Thrill 2 into having significantly above average. And up next we have variety, and Top Thrill 2, what can you say? Just the element and layout that it has, it can't really have much variety. Because, you know, it really only has 2 actual elements that are high up in the air. With all 3 launches being different from one another, and the top hat and back spike offering 2 very different high in the air experiences, I will give Top Thrill 2 a little bit of variety than I otherwise would have. But like I said, it's just limited by, you know, what the ride is and wants to be. So for variety, I'm just going to score it above average because it does its best with what it has in terms of creating some variety in its elements. Up next, we have inversions, and Top Thrill 2 does not have any inversions, so inversions scores a 0. Up next, we have density. And just to remind everyone, for density, I'm just looking for overall layout strength. Is the ride always doing something? Is it keeping itself busy? And is it keeping its riders on their toes? And Top Thrill 2, surprisingly for me, really does a good job at this, except for, you guessed it, that first launch. After that first launch though, Top Thrill 2 keeps you guessing, it keeps you busy, and it keeps you having fun for the remainder of its layout. Density is definitely an area where Top Thrill 2 downgraded in compared to Top Thrill Dragster, as Top Thrill Dragster can't really pack in any more into its ride than it does. Top Thrill 2 though, the first launch just doesn't keep you guessing, and for that, density takes a big hit. To have a good density score, you really cannot have any dead spots or straight ahead sections, so I know it may seem harsh, but I have to knock density here because Top Thrill 2 has what kind of feels like a big dead zone with that first launch. And for pacing, same kind of deal. That first launch compared to the rest of the ride just feels slow and sluggish and isn't consistent with the rest of the layout in terms of pacing. The saving grace for pacing compared to density is that first launch does get some good speed at the end, and after that, Top Thrill 2 is one of the best paced roller coasters in the world with the speed that everything is taken at from there on out. Once that rock back is complete, it is pure all-out speed all the way to the very end with no let-up whatsoever. So for that reason, Top Thrill 2's pacing is so elite despite its lackluster first launch that feels sluggish. Up next we have smoothness, and I talked about this in the POV, but overall it's pretty good, just minor inconsistencies every now and then, and it's more of a constant rattle rather than any kind of roughness or shakiness. No potholes or sudden jolts, just a very small vibration that you can feel every now and again due to imperfections. I do not consider this vibration ride hindering at all, so for me, smoothness gets above average and is definitely passable, especially for a ride of this height and speed. Up next we have duration, and Top Thrill 2's duration overall is very satisfactory. 8 total elements may not seem that impressive, but a drop to break time of 54.28 seconds is pretty impressive. Especially compared to Top Thrill Dragster's original drop to break time of 17 seconds, Top Thrill 2 is nearly 3 times as long. Based on its duration of 54 seconds, the arrow is placed on duration accordingly. Up next we have airtime strength, and Top Thrill 2's airtime strength is obviously going to be very good since it has the best scoring moment that I've recorded on these reviews so far. You can't really get much stronger than the drop off the top hat in the back row. I just wish the overall front half of the top hat flowed a little bit more smoothly and felt more like one full airtime moment rather than having a break in the middle. Obviously, from an engineering standpoint, you can't actually do that, but what can I say overall? I just prefer a more straightforward single shot of airtime when I go over a hill. Airtime strength would have been max had it not been for the ascent in the back row or descent in the front row, just being so weak compared to the other half of the top hat. It still scores really good for strength though, as it really makes its only moment of airtime count. This leads into the final category, which is airtime quantity, and while Top Thrill 2 does only have 2 moments of airtime when you separate the top hat, 8.34 seconds of airtime is more airtime than a lot of other roller coasters that have complete layouts. Because it only has 1 airtime moment separated into 2, I can only score so high, but 8.34 seconds of airtime is 8.34 seconds of airtime. That's why I have airtime quantity only on slightly below average. Top Thrill 2 really focuses on the adrenaline rush feeling with just 2 monster elements taking at breakneck speed. While not as forceful and punchy as the original, Top Thrill 2 introduces some new sensations that add to the insane experience of this ride. With much improved duration and passable smoothness, it makes for a complete package ride experience that is unlike anything else in the world right now. Right now, Top Thrill 2 for me ranks at number 15 of my 222 credits. I know 15 seems low, and I really do wish I could put it higher, but I look at all the coasters I have above it and I just can't see where I would move it. Just for some perspective, I currently have Top Thrill 2 in a group that consists of Pantherian, Siren's Curse, and Pantheon, and I kind of shuffle those around based on how I'm feeling on any given day. I just find it hard to place a coaster very high that just doesn't have a complete layout like all the ones above it. I had the original Top Thrill Dragster ranked at number 21, so Top Thrill 2 is a considerable margin above that, and I definitely think this ride is better for all the reasons I've listed in this video. I've also seen Top Thrill 2 break into some absolutely elite top 10s, and to be quite honest, this is a very legitimate contender for number 1 coaster in the world right now. And I can absolutely respect anybody who has it in their top 3 or 5. Zamperla took a lot of heat early on with this thing, and I always felt like I was the one defending them. But now, I want to take the chance to give them their flowers. There's still work to be done and years of operation ahead, but they absolutely killed it with this ride experience. And hopefully 2025 was a sign of things to come for long-term reliability. I'm a little irritated with Six Flags for pulling the plug on Kingda Ka so quickly without better evaluating the Zamperla renovation option, because I would have loved for Kingda Ka to become an experience like this. Zamperla is attempting to sell clones of these, and if I was in charge of Six Flags, I would absolutely consider buying more of them, as this ride is an obvious smash hit at just about anywhere you can put it. I think of all things I said in this video, nothing sings Top Thrill 2's praises more than that. This will conclude CoasterGuy23 review number 6 on Top Thrill 2 at Cedar Point. If you don't want to have to wait for all my reviews to come out to view my current list of roller coasters, find me on CaptainCoaster.com, username CoasterGuy. To view my coaster count, parks visited, ride stats, and a bunch of other stuff, friend me on LogRide at CoasterGuy23. To view or download any of my RideForce files, visit my profile on RideForce's DB, also at CoasterGuy23. Thank you guys all for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.